Carrie. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it's a beautiful day out there. It's hard to be sitting behind a computer on a day like this, especially on a weekend. So with that, I would like to thank everybody that's all weekend that has put the time in. My name is Carrie Gopher. I say Carrie Gopher Nisiga Sun, and that means my name is Carrie Gopher. So with that, I will start sharing my screen because I want to start off with an amazing video. Give me a second. Crossing the fingers. Let's hope it works. Go this way. We are here. We are still here. Show you who I am. Survivor of the boarding schools and what has happened. So here I am right here. This is me, yours truly, Carrie McNabb Gopher. Here's my father, Albert McNabb, boarding school survivor. Here's his parents, my grandparents, Isabel, late Isabel and late Patrick, boarding school survivors. Here's my mother, Brenda Sear, boarding school survivor. Here's her parents, boarding school survivors. Here I am. Here's my child, Jarrell. Here's his child, Miley K. Gopher. This is who we're educating right here, Jarrell. So from here to here, I just want to help you understand that when we're going through this, think about this as make that connection that it's here today. It didn't happen. We can't push it under the rug anymore. We got to address it. So the history of Indigenous people, very important, very, very important when we're talking about Native American perspective. The year 1492, when Indigenous people discovered Columbus. Columbus was lost, people. He was lost. We discovered him. We helped him. We helped him survive. You know, yesterday, Dr. Cummins talked to you about Columbus, and he kind of gave you an intro of the whole, you know, timeline and everything. What I want to focus on is from 1492, jump all the way to 1879, the day that lives for us with forever. We can never, ever take this day away. This is the day that the Carlisle Indian Residential School in Carlisle, Pennsylvania opened with the motto, with the intention of killing the Indian to save the man. That was the whole purpose of this school, to assimilate us into something that we weren't. The day that will forever be marked in Indigenous people's minds, 1879, Carlisle Indian Residential Schools. Kill the Indian, save the man. Just resonate that for a second. So if we weren't compassionate people, if we didn't have that compassion, if Creator didn't give us that compassion, we could be very, very angry for our ancestors, for the children. So this motto, this, this kill the Indian, save the man, oh, it spread like wildfire. It really did. We ended up having a total amount of, I do believe it is 408 boarding schools in United States. Thankful for the Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, who initiated the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative to find the report and find the, do a report on the boarding schools for the Native American people. And that's what came out, 408 boarding schools across North America, across United States. Let's not say North America. Hold on a second. So here we go, American Indian boarding schools. Yesterday, Dr. Cummins shared Schooling the World again. I had a video, a YouTube video to share with you, but by the looks of it, I'm not going to be able to show you the video. But if you could, you type in the YouTube and you type in Schooling the World. This video shows you exactly the purpose of what this boarding schools were meant to be. The purpose of the boarding schools, it's not meant to be coming in and saving the Indian. It came in to kill the Indian, to assimilate them into a totally different culture, a totally different lifestyle, because we were savages, we were heathens, we were godless in their eyes, and the people's eyes that walked in, that we saved. We actually saved them because they were, they probably would have, I don't know what would have happened to Columbus, but that's just me being facetious here. So, excuse me. Okay, now let's go into the Canadian residential boarding schools. Again, caught like wildfire. Soon after the Carlisle Indian Residential School, the same ideology was passed on to Canada. In Canada, we had 140 residential schools across Canada with the same objective of killing the Indian to save the man. Those infamous words, we're still dealing with it today. We're still fighting for who we are. We're still fighting to get back our identity. So if you understand why this is so important in the educational system, to recognize this piece, to recognize that this needs to be taught to our students, to help them understand that this is not who you are. You misbehaving, you getting kicked out of class, you're not being respectful, you're not being humble, you're not showing humility, you're not showing compassion, you're not showing respect. That's not who you are. Helping them, recognizing, going back to this teaching of get back to who you are, fight for who you are. So going back to boarding schools is very, very important for our Native youth, for our people, because some people are not there yet. They're not in that, that level of understanding of why some things are the way they are. Again, I had another YouTube video and it's not going to play. I apologize. But if this was a face-to-face, it would be amazing, because there's some amazing stuff shared on this YouTube video. If you type in Canadian, it's not supposed to be Canadian American, it's supposed to be Canadian Indian boarding schools. You will get a lot of information of survivors sharing their stories, the atrocities, the abuse, the physical, the mental, the sexual abuse that they've endured in these boarding schools. You have so many stories being shared, and it's being public. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, we knew about this. We knew about what happened in boarding schools, but we didn't talk about it. It wasn't public. It wasn't a big deal. We're being told as Native Americans, as First Nation, as Indigenous people, we're being told, get over it. That's, again, going back to, if I wasn't a compassionate person, I could be angry about that. I could really, really be angry. And get over it. Going back to thinking about my granddaughter being taken from my arms, thinking about being literally dragged away from me. It can be upsetting. It hurts. It still hurts when you really, really think about what happened to our ancestors, when you're at that level of understanding. So this is a story of, let's go back. This is a story about a young lady that was in one of the reservations up in Canada. This is what her story said. I have been ordered to stand on the outside of the windows with a rope around my waist to clean windows on the 4th floor with a little girl holding the rope. When I told sister I was afraid to go out the window, she scolded me and made me clean the window and threatened to beat me if I did not do it. After we're beating, we were asked why we got the beating. And if we told them that we didn't know, we got another beating. The sisters always tell us not to tell our parents about the beatings. This was a 15-year-old girl from the Mi'kmaq First Nation. This is like in Ontario, Canada. That condition of fear was instilled in them. How long has this young lady been in the boarding school? So she knew that if she didn't get out there and possibly risk her life to clean this window, she'd probably still risk her life by getting a beating. These are the kind of stories that are being shared, that are being told now, that are being on the forefront of Native Americans, First Nations. So understanding this piece to help heal is a huge part as an educator. So oftentimes, this was success. Kill the Indian, save the man. They took pictures like this just to show the progress, to show that they were being successful in assimilating and teaching them God-fearing ways, I might say. This was why pictures like this were taken. Let's go on. The impacts of these boarding schools. Individually, we lost our identity. We ended up having a low self-esteem. We had no safety because we were constantly being beaten. We're constantly being belittled. I don't want to go in great detail of the story. If you want to research that, you have the right to go ahead and look into the atrocious, things that our people went through, and ultimately resulting in no sense of safety. Now, having that no sense of safety makes you on edge, right? It makes you think, well, who can I trust? So as a little girl, as a little 5-year-old girl, already being conditioned not to trust. So on one of the flowers, somebody put trust. So take that trust away from that flower. So now you only have 4 petals left. You have difficulty forming relationships because you don't trust people. The families lost that connection. There was no parental power. There was a near destruction of extended family systems. The tribal communities lost their sense of community. Of course, we lost our language. We lost our tribal traditions and ceremonies, which overall weakened the nation structure, our First Nation, our Indigenous nation structure, because our numbers were depleted. So when we're thinking about the long-term effects of boarding schools, you got to think about how it broke that connection between the children, the parents, the language, the culture, and the self-identity. The results destroyed the essence of an Indigenous child. It affected the ability to reconnect to their family, to their land, to their way of life, to what Creator had given us as Native American people. Why I say that is 1-2 generations above me, previous 3-4, they've all been boarding school survivors. So all of these attributes that make a family whole, they were severed. So we grew up without parents. Now I can say this because that's my story. I may not have endured what my parents or my parents before that, or my grandparents or my forefathers, I may not have endured what they endured, but the resulting effects of a broken home, that's what I had to deal with. So it lingers, that generational trauma lingers. And again, I keep going back to this. Why is it so important? We need to make that connection so we can help our Native American students heal. We need to let them know, hey, this is not you. This is not who you are. This is not how Creator made us to be. So your scholarly people, here's some journals if you want to get into looking further into this topic. Examining the theory of historical trauma among Native Americans. This was a historical, let's go back to historical trauma. Where did this derive from? Braveheart was doing a research project, and it had to do with survivors of the Holocaust. And when she starts seeing these symptoms and start recognizing these symptoms, and these same symptoms were with her own people. So that's where the historical trauma derived from, Braveheart. So when you understand that historical trauma is still alive and well, maybe reading these journal articles or these research projects will help you further understand and how you can teach that in the classroom, how you can teach that with your districts, with your parents, with your people, with the non-Native Americans, to help understand where we are coming from as Native Americans. The other amazing journal article was the historical trauma in American Indian Alaska with the Native youth mental health development. These are amazing, sorry, I have a little fly here. These are amazing research and projects and journal articles. Okay, again, I had such YouTube again, if you want to, I don't know how we can share these links, but look into Every Child Matters, because of the genocide that had taken place across North America. I'm going to say North America because that applies in United States as well. To date, I did this presentation about maybe 2 months ago because I had to go present, but to date there was over 1,800 unmarked graves. So thinking back again to the picture that I showed you of my family, thinking back to any of my children, my little tiny Nussim, not returning home. I shared my children with this. Actually, I didn't share my children. They were taken from me. So making that connection, my children was ripped from my arms to be put in this boarding school, and they never came back. We are just now finding those children. We're finding those unmarked graves. You again look on YouTube, you type in unmarked graves, you have all of these news articles, all of these, we're actually getting recognition now of the horrible, I don't even know the word for it, the horribleness that our people had to endure, not having your children come home. So the data that I'm going to eventually show you directly ties into this. So you understand that, oh, this all matters. I get it now. I understand why I need to put this in my lessons. I need to help my people understand. So the symptoms of historical trauma, the historical trauma that is passed on from generation to, I'm sorry. that is passed on from generation to generation. Substance abuse, depression, anxiety, avoidance of people, of places, loss of sleep, high rate of suicide, obesity, poverty, crime, low educational attainment, high rates of homicide, child abuse, domestic abuse, unhealthy mind, spirit, body, diabetes, heart disease, cirrhosis of the liver, because we depend on substance abuse to numb the feeling. We depend on drugs to help us through that, to especially, I'm going back 2 generations. We use these, we depended on these to help us forget. So when you're under the influence, you forget how to parent. You forget that you're the mother, you're the constant, you're the one that provides that comfort, that provides that healing. You forget about these because you're under the influence trying to recover from what you have endured in these boarding schools. So now we're into my generation. Again, I thank Creator, I thank God that I didn't have to, and you know, I hope the people that did have to experience this, the atrocious behaviors, I hope that they're healing. I hope they're finding that peace. But I didn't have to endure that, but I still suffered. I'm still a survivor of a boarding school and the symptom and the effects of a boarding school. So go back to the flower. Let's go back to what was written in there. Let's see. We have nurture, we have innocence, we have spiritual, we have supportive, we have truth, we have trust, we have respect, we have connection. All of these things that make a child whole, they were all destroyed. We have no flower where there's no trust. There's no helping. There's no truthful, because what had happened? There's no empathy. There's no love, because of what they think love is not love. It's, you know, it's surviving. So let me go back and say, not all of the Native Americans are there. Some of us are in a place of healing. Some of us recognize that we needed to heal. We needed that, you know, that the drugs and alcohol and gambling and all of these abuses, that's not who we are. Again, going back to how did we get there? I'm going to share with you how I got there eventually, without the help of my in-laws, who are traditional, sort of, if you want to say traditional, they're traditional people that helped me heal. So before I get there, I want to talk about the adverse childhood experience. A very important assessment from the Kaiser and Permente, their partnership with the Center of Disease and Control. It's an assessment between the relationships of the adult health risk behaviors and childhood abuse. So understanding that the emotional and sexual abuse, the substance abuse, the domestic abuse, the homelessness, the incarceration, the mental illness, the divorce, the physical and emotional neglect, the neglect period, are all adverse, are all high signs of ACE. When you understand that ACE that ACE score has an important factor in how you are as an adult, it helps you understand how to begin that healing process with our students, I always call my students in the district my little Indians. How do you help them heal when they're dealing with all these adverse effects? How do you help them in the classroom, in the school? How do you help them after school? How do you give them a place of belonging? Because they're dealing with these, what do you want to call them, with these factors that hinder their growth. So as you're going through understanding these ACE effects, these physical, emotional, sexual neglect, mental illness, incarceration, domestic abuse, substance abuse, divorce, poverty, homelessness, when you're understanding that a student is enduring these, you'll understand that this is how their brain looks. So on the left side, you have a healthy brain, a student that doesn't have to live with any of these conditions. On the right side, you have a student who has a high ACE score, who's surviving. That some of these students are the ones that are getting up in the morning, or maybe haven't even slept. These are the students that are in your classroom. These are the students that need that healing. By the looks of it, when you look at it in this perspective now on how it affects the brain. So going back again to historical trauma, this also ties to the survivors of historical trauma. Again, I can't show you the YouTube video. I have amazing videos for you to see. So I was hoping I didn't have to talk the whole time, because it's a lot better when you're talking with someone, but when you're talking at a screen, it gets hard. So how does this tie into the assessments that are given? How is this, relevant? How do we make that connection? It's like, oh, I'm tired of hearing, of boarding schools and how, their Native Americans are just, blaming the boarding school system, but we're not, because we are healing. We get that. We can look at this two different ways. We could say, oh gosh, look at our ACT scores. The blue line is the national. These are some of the scores from the districts on reservations. We can look at it from an optimistic view and say, oh my God, we're doing amazing. Like, for everything that we've been through, for how we've survived, killing the Indian, saving the man. Look, we're doing amazing. God, we got to keep it up. Or we could say, what more can we do? Look at our test scores. Look at our smarter balance ELA scores. Look how low we are. Look at our mathematics scores. Look how low we are. Or we can flip that frame of mind and say, oh, good job. I'm so proud of you. Now let's tie in some culture. Look, you're meeting, like, you're doing amazing. We can flip this around however you want to look at it. Be understanding what we've been through as Native Americans. Here's some more from the YRBS. This assessment is done from Susan Court, who's the state coordinator for the Youth Risk Behavior Survey Program with the Montana OPI. I took all of these out of the program, the survey, to show you what we're leading in, where we need to provide that assistance, not to say, oh my God, you Native Americans are leading in this, you're leading in that. It's to bring awareness. What can you do in your classroom, in your district, to bring the awareness of how do you help our little, students that are driving back and forth without a seatbelt? How do you bring awareness to that? How do you bring awareness to the students that are still driving with a drinking driver? How do we bring awareness to that? Because it's needed. I just had to put this out here because the felt sad or hopeless, it's across the board. How do we bring that piece of contentment with our students in general, not only our Native Americans? Lifetime cigarette smoke. Again, how do you bring awareness? Not changing that frame of mind of our whole purpose behind working with students, with our Native youth, with youth in general, is to help them, understand whatever it is, whatever path they're on. So, looking at this data, and this data is available to you through the OPI website. How can you pick one of these and help within the districts? Tobacco products, smokeless, tobacco, vaping. Vaping is huge. It's a big issue within all districts. Types of alcohol, marijuana, it's going to be kind of a tough fight with the marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. Pick your battles kind of thing. Sexual intercourse, condom use, preventing pregnancy. How do we bring awareness to these topics? Because we need them. Obesity, again, all of these tie in with the high ACE scores. It all correlates together. So these are just some of the data that I wanted to share with you, because I don't know how long I've been talking and I'm going to run out of time. School absence due to, just school absence in general. We have issues with school absences across the board, but maybe making that connection of how families don't, not all families, how some families don't trust the school systems. Our dropout rate, again, you can look at it both ways, being optimistic or being a pessimist. Oh my God, 6.04%. That's high. Going back thinking about, oh, well, my God, that's pretty darn good because of everything that these students are dealing with. Like, that's amazing. Good job. We can, however we want to frame it, but the data is there to share our story. Again, here's the dropout rate in comparison. I get more out of this than I do, because American Indian is red and then multiracial is in blue. So this could be either one of us, because sometimes, we have what you call I couldn't use that word, multiracial. Sometimes you have people that are half Indian and half another race. So we could be in this blue one as well. Now, this NYCP survey report, amazing stuff. National survey done every 4 years on our Native American students. Here's some questions. I got to try move this down. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. How much do you know about your American Indian tribe or Alaska Native group? This is a low density school. So this is 25% of Native Americans. A high density school is probably on a reservation. So the data is not really showing much, there's not much compare, you have 18%, you have 21% on a Native American school. So we kind of need to, increase that awareness within our Native American districts. Who taught you most what you know about American history? History, again, tying in the boarding schools. No one has taught me in a low density school. In a high density school, 14%. Again, not much difference. 8th grade, no one has taught me in a off reservation school. 5% said that nobody taught them on a reservation school. How often do you integrate materials about Native Americans? 18%, never in low density. In a Native American school, high population, 6%. Again, 33 and 15. How often do you read literature of Native Americans? 15, 10. Again, off reservation, on reservation. Off reservation, never on reservation. I love data. I really love looking at data because the data tells the story. It just makes that connection. How many times have they attended professional or community-based development programs that are culturally relevant? 79% off reservation, 42% on reservation. 42% of our staff. This is, sorry, this is national data. Now let's get into the Native American college enrollment. So college enrollment, good job. You know, again, I'm going to be optimistic. Good job for everything that we've been through from 2010 to 2020. We had 214 to 202, 28% to 23%. Good job. You know, we're staying at a constant. We're not dropping drastically, or we're not increasing drastically. So good job to all the people that are in the fight. Again, looking at it, being optimistic, because I'm a survivor. Teaching that virtue of, I'm not playing the victim anymore. I'm a survivor. Just another, you know, graph to show the differences. So now, how can you help provide culturally equitable learning to our students? So when you're thinking about the vision and the mission of your school, and I'm running out of time, aren't I? Every one of these, every teacher, every leader is what's the word? We're all pushed by these. We all have standards that help us be amazing at what we do in the school districts. So when you're thinking about all of these different standards, think about, how do we tie culture? How can our vision be culturally equitable? How can our professional norms in the building be culturally equitable? How do we show our students that? How are we culturally responsive? And if you don't know, ask. You know, ask somebody. You have people surrounded by you that they're not going to come up to you and tell you how to do things. You have to ask. Take that step, that next step, and say, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to do this. You know, how is your curriculum showing the culture, the history, the language? You know, asking yourself, how can I get this in here? How do my assessments, how can I create assessments that are culturally relevant? So as you're going through these standards, these leadership standards, you ask yourself these questions from the perspective of a Native American student. So again, I had an amazing little video on the bottom, but I want to show you that we are resilient. Native American people are resilient. Again, we were made with that compassion. That's what we were given as Native Americans, that compassion. And along with compassion comes that resiliency. So you look at these babies, they're already exemplifying that resiliency. We are healing. We don't, oh, don't tell me I'm almost done, Donnie.
You have 6 minutes.
Okay, perfect. But
it's amazing. Holy cow.
I just want to show you that we are, this is my mother-in-law, this is my husband. This is the sweetgrass. That's a totally different teaching moment. But, you know, I'll leave that up to my husband. If anybody ever wants to learn about the sweetgrass and the history of that and the spiritual piece of that, reach out to your people in your community. We are here. We want to share our knowledge. We want you to understand us, but we are here. We are resilient. So as you're going through, okay, this is where I come in. This is how I heal. This is myself and my grandbaby. Not sure who has their mic on, but this is the healing. So as you're going through it, your school, ask for trauma-informed care. You know, look at the social emotional learning, look at the positive behavior to condition our students how to be resilient. Look at your multi-tiered systems of support. How are they culturally relevant? And then look at your school climate. Always look from the perspective of the student in order to create this amazing bouquet of flowers. So we have all of those attributes and behaviors back into our bouquet. So we have the kinship, we have the loyalty, we have the compassion, we have the generosity, we have the healing, so we can be whole again. But at the same time, coming from the Native American student, think about, put that in your repertoire kind of thing. Where was I in the curriculum? Where was my history and my culture? Where was the connection between my background and experiences and what I was learning? How did you connect that? What room was there for my peers and myself to identify, celebrate our knowledge, our cultures, our interests, our people, our resiliency? What space was provided to talk about equity and inequity in our communities and in the outside world? How did you prepare me to go out into the world and know how to handle this? What room was there to develop the skills and agency to critique our social context, to understand the histories in general, not only our histories, all of the histories? What policies are in place to protect me? Where is the student voice? How are you protecting me? And then, in other words, how was I developing and strengthening my roots? That's the question you got to ask yourself when you're dealing with our students. What are you helping me? How are you helping me strengthen my roots? Because I need it. You've seen the history, the boarding school systems, and the historical trauma. All of the presenters that we had all week, that's where they're at. They're providing you with that, well, this is how we do it. This is what can be done. They gave you ideas of how to implement this, of how to continue healing, because not all of our people are in that space yet of understanding they need to heal. And here's our ASA framework that guides our work. As a team, I walked into this and it spoke to me because it's exactly what we need. It's exactly who we are as people in general, in order to be, amazing people. I'm always using the word amazing because I love the word, but keeping that culture in mind. So I'm sorry I couldn't show you my YouTube videos. I know I have a few PR, PDs that I'm going out to schools and sharing this teachable moment kind of thing to help you understand us and where we come from. So if there's any questions, we have any questions? Thank you. Yes. Oh, thanks, Bental. Oh, thank you, Carrie. Best 10 minutes. Sorry, Donnie. I wasn't looking at the chat box. So
no, just tons of positives. Carrie, that was unbelievable. For those here, Carrie's been pretty new. She's been gathering info. She's been connecting. That's the first time I've seen you present, and holy cow, powerhouse.